A policy statement released by the Executive Office of the President's Office of Management and Budget effectively made the very bold statement that the Constitution of the United States was a threat to national security. Does this not remind you of a saying from Benjamin Franklin? They who would give up an essential liberty for temporary security deserve neither liberty or security. Are the American people willing to give up their right to be free from unreasonable searches for the promise of national security? We'll discuss that next on the
neighbors and have a few good friends. Every day we're everyday Americans. Oh, every day we're everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution. Teach a rising generation be free. I'm glad you could join me today. We're going to talk about this. Was actually something that was sent to me. I had several people send me a link to this post that kind of started all this, and it really begs a very important question. What would you give up to be safe? Or put another way, what would cause you to give up one of your rights? What would be sufficient to give up one of your rights? Now, part of this, I believe, comes from a misunderstanding of rights and how they affect our lives and our responsibility to defend them. It's one of the reasons why I started the Patriots program, a program designed to help educate, not only educate us, but help all these different groups work together. So I'll talk a bit more about that at the end of the episode. But for now, let's take a look at this policy statement and the question: is the Constitution a threat to national security? On April 12, 2024, Jordan Carney posted on X what she claims is a memo from the Biden administration regarding an amendment to H.R. 7888, a bill to reauthorize Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. The title of the memo is "The Biggs Amendment is a Threat to National Security." I say she claims to because she provided no link to the original document, and I've not been able to find a copy of the document she posted anywhere. I did, however, find a policy statement from the administration's Office of Management and Budget that, while not as explicit in its claim as the memo Ms. Carney posted, essentially says the same thing. See, there have been numerous examples of the Federal Bureau of Intelligence misusing the data collected under FISA Section 702 and stored on its database. The FBI lied to the FISA court to authorize surveillance of a presidential candidate and his staff, and then again to continue the surveillance after Donald Trump had been elected president. The FISA court identified more than 278,000 times the FBI violated their own standards to use Section 702 to spy on Americans, including those suspects in the January 6, 2021 breach of the Capitol, Black Lives Matter, and even political campaign donors. This has led to numerous calls to either eliminate Section 702 or modify it in order to protect the rights of the American people. During the debate of H.R. 7888, the Reforming Intelligence and Securing America Act, an amendment was offered by Representative Andy Biggs, which states, an amendment numbered 1, printed in House Report 118-456, to prohibit warrantless searches of U.S. persons' communication in the FISA 702 database, with exceptions for imminent threat to life or bodily harm, consent searches, or known cybersecurity threat signatures. This led to the OMB policy statement of April 11, 2024, which included the statement, "For those same reasons, the administration strongly opposes the amendment proposed by Representative Biggs to H.R. 7888 that would rebuild a wall around and thus block our access to already lawfully collected information in the possession of the United States government." Interesting. The administration doesn't claim Mr. Biggs' amendment would create a new wall around the 702 database, but rebuild one that previously existed. Now, the White House has expressed unqualified support for the renewal of FISA Section 702. The administration strongly supports H.R. 7888, a bipartisan bill to reauthorize an essential intelligence authority, Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, and other FISA provisions before they would expire on April 19, 2024. If it has been shown that the FBI has been abusing their access to the Section 702 database, why does the administration want to retain such access? Well, from the policy statement we read, expiration of Section 702 authorities would deprive us of insight into precisely the threats Americans expect their government to identify and counter. Terrorist threats to the homeland, fentanyl supply chains bringing deadly drugs into American communities, hostile government's recruitment of spies in our midst, PRC transnational repressions, penetrations of our critical infrastructure, adversaries' attempt to illicitly acquire sensitive dual-use and military commodities and technology, ransomware attacks against major American companies and nonprofits, Russian war crimes, and many more. The administration lists a number of threats they claim from which the American people expect to be protected. That's fine. But what about the abusive use of this data? To protect the American people, we need to maintain this vital collection authority while strengthening its protective guardrails with the most robust set of reforms ever included in legislation to reauthorize Section 702, and H.R. 7888 does that. I'm not sure if the protections in H.R. 7888 are the most robust ever in place for reauthorization of Section 702, but I do know they are, at best, as thin as tissue paper. For example, if someone in the FBI wishes to query the 702 database for, let's say, data on an American citizen, the requirement would be Federal Bureau of Investigation personnel must obtain prior approval from a Federal Bureau of Investigation supervisor or employee of equivalent or greater rank, or attorney who is authorized to access unminimized contents or contents obtained through acquisitions authorized under subsection A for any query of such unminimized contents or non-contents made using a United States person query term. So the FBI personnel merely needs to get the okay from a supervisor or higher access to this data. That's the unminimized data. No probable cause, no proof of relevancy to any ongoing and approved investigation. Just a request and approval from an FBI supervisor or an attorney with access to the unminimized, the unredacted data. Isn't this a case of the fox guarding the henhouse? Isn't this what so many people have been complaining about? But wait, there's more. A United States person query to be conducted by the Federal Bureau of Investigations of unminimized contents or non-contents obtained through acquisitions authorized under subsection A, using a United States person query term may be conducted without obtaining prior approval as specified in Clause 1, only if the person conducting the United States person query has a reasonable belief that conducting the query could assist in the mitigation or eliminating a threat to life or serious bodily harm. So as long as the FBI actor has a reasonable belief that someone could be killed or injured, even the tissue paper thin protections go out the window. Notice there's no time frame for the threat to life or serious bodily harm. The investigation could be looking into a possible attack months, even years in the future, but they do not require even the most minimal of review by a supervisor. This is to the Biden administration sufficient safeguards to protect the people's rights from the administration's abuses? It seems that those in the Biden administration, and not to mention many in the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives, have forgotten they have sworn or affirmed to support the Constitution, which includes the Fourth Amendment that says the right of the people to be secure in their purses, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Much of what has been collected in Section 702's database are emails and other digital communication, the modern-day equivalent of a person's papers and effects. While the U.S. Constitution has no legal authority in foreign nations, it most certainly does within the borders of the United States and when the United States is dealing with its citizens and residents. Since the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land, read Article 6, Clause 2, that means for a search of the digital papers and effects of any American to be legal, there must be a reason. And to provide proof of that reasonableness, the government must acquire a warrant or show an exigent or an urgent circumstance exists, which sounds an awful lot like what would be required by Mr. Biggs' amendment. To prohibit warrantless searches of U.S. person communications in the FISA 702 database, with exceptions for the imminent threat to life or bodily harm, consent searches, or known cybersecurity threat signatures. However, it appears the Biden administration, like many of its predecessors, doesn't like the idea of their illegal powers being challenged. From the policy statement, For these same reasons, the administration strongly opposes the amendment proposed by Representative Biggs to H.R. 7888 that would rebuild a wall around and thus block our access to already lawfully collected information in the possession of the United States government. The amendment would prohibit U.S. officials from reviewing critical information that the intelligence community has already lawfully collected, with exceptions that are exceedingly narrow and unworkable in practice. Our intelligence, defense, and public safety communities are united. The extensive harms of this proposal simply cannot be mitigated. Therefore, the administration strongly opposes the amendment. Yes, the amendment would prohibit the unlawful review of what is, in some cases, lawfully collected data. It would require the intelligence community to follow the law, including the Constitution, that they swore or affirmed to follow. The restrictions are narrow for two very important reasons. First, so that they would be pursuant to the Constitution of the United States. And second, to prevent the types of criminal abuses we have already seen those in the FBI are more than willing to commit. The administration seems concerned about the extensive harms the Biggs Amendment would have on their ability to illegally spy on the American people, while at the same time showing no concern of the extensive crimes they have committed against those people. Now, I place limited confidence in the memo Ms. Carney posted, simply because there is no evidence that it is actually a Whitehouse memo. Now, with that caveat, and giving Ms. Carney the benefit of the doubt, there are details in this memo that would be of great importance if it's real. According to the memo Ms. Carney published, the FBI claims to have thwarted 3 attacks based on data they found by searching the Section 702 database. Of course, they provide no details to verify their claims. While that makes sense from an operational security standpoint, with all of the illegal activity and proven targeting of political opponents, does anyone trust the FBI claims anymore? In this memo, the Biden administration admits that their searches of the Section 702 database violate the Fourth Amendment. Well, from the memo, the warrant exception allows a query if, beforehand, the executive branch has obtained a court order based on probable cause. But the executive branch almost never can meet that standard at the earliest stages of an investigation when queries are most critical. The Biden administration admits that it does not have the probable cause necessary to obtain a warrant when they search the database. That is not only the definition of an unreasonable search, but a deprivation of due process, thereby violating the Fifth Amendment as well. The Biden administration has turned Section 702 into a general warrant, like those used during the colonial period to investigate people in search of a crime, and effectively neutering the Fourth Amendment. The FBI has already committed crimes in their abuse of the Section 702 database. They have searched the database without a warrant, thus depriving their victims of the security against unreasonable searches. Although not as straightforward, I claim they also violated the Fourth Amendment when they seized copies of the digital versions of papers and effects of U.S. citizens and residents to store in such a database. That is why I propose a constitutional amendment to specifically expand the Fourth Amendment for the digital age by including things such as digital documents, communication, and data about a person. Yet to date, I am not aware of a single FBI employee who has been charged with the crimes that they have committed. Even those who lied under oath when they knowingly provided false data in their affidavits to obtain therefore invalid warrants to spy on the President of the United States and members of his campaign and cabinet have not been charged. And yet this sitting president wants us to trust that FBI supervisors and attorneys with access to the database will follow the law this time? And here we have the Biden administration telling us we need to give up our essential liberty, our rights to due process, and be secure against unreasonable searches and seizures, all with the promise of protecting our national security. Are you willing to give up your essential liberties for what is shown to be the false promise of temporary safety? It seems to me there is a much greater threat to national security than the FBI losing its unrestricted and illegal access to their precious Section 702 database. That would be allowing them to continue to criminally spy on the American people. There's been a lot of talk about Section 702 of FISA and its renewal and the abuses the FBI have used against the American people. What I find, if not amazing, certainly frustrating, is how many of the representatives of the American people just don't care. You wave the national security flag and they're willing to give up any one of your rights they can. And the American people, don't seem to care either. Where's the hoopla? Where are the people in the streets? Where are the people going to their representatives saying, how dare you sell our rights? Simply because some bureaucrat says we need their rights. We need them to give up their rights so that we can keep them safe. We need to break the law. We need to violate the Constitution. We need to trash the thing that makes the United States great just in order to keep you safe. Well, there's a lie, because look at what they've done to the national security already. There is a greater threat than access to 702 to your rights and to our national security, and that is an out-of-control and rogue federal agency, namely the FBI, or we should call them the Federal Bureau of Intimidation based on some of their actions. So now it's here. I've laid the arguments out for you. What are you going to do? Are you going to stand up? Are you going to confront your elected employees in Congress and say, how dare you? You're authorizing criminal activity. That makes you a conspiracy to deny us our rights, another federal crime. This is what happens when the American people sit back and simply let the children run amok. It's why I created the Patriots program. Now, you have an agenda. You have things that are important to you. They probably are not the same as mine. That's okay. The Patriot program is designed to help you and all the others. We don't all have to agree on everything. So the Patriots program is broken into 3 segments. The constitutional scholars are where we study to understand the Constitution so that you have the tools to make the same types of arguments I just made. So you can, as John Jay say, recognize when your rights are being violated and be prepared to defend and assert them. We've got the committees of correspondence. How do we communicate amongst our groups so that we know what's going on so that we can support each other? Or just find out when entities are violating our rights. Wouldn't it be nice for somebody in the committee of correspondence say, hey, this is going on here, and have somebody else say, we had the same thing over here, and this is what we did. Have you thought about this? And then last, but certainly not least, is my Minutemen. The men and women who are prepared at a moment's notice to rise to the defense of their neighbors' rights. Whether it's showing up at an event just to be there, or helping somebody deal with a court case. People who have done the studying, done the communication, and are prepared to help. They can find out more at constitutionstudy.com/patriots. Check it out. It's an invitation-only program. To get an invitation, you have to take the boot camp. The boot camp is free. It's a 1-hour video, and you pass the test at the end, and you'll get an invitation to join us at the Patriots. You can become involved in any of those groups, the subgroups that you want. Now, hopefully, you'll consider that because it does help support the work that we do here at the Constitution Study. I just brought on a volunteer intern, and it's been very helpful. For the most part, it's me, myself, and I. My wife helps with the editing, and now I've got someone else to help with some of the workload as well. So if you want to volunteer, contact me, and we'll see how we can work you into the system. You become a patriot, or you buy a book, or you donate to the cause. So we've got the funds to keep the software and the gear we need to keep producing these episodes, the articles, and the information, not to mention the radio program. Most of all, it gives you the tools and the abilities so that you can defend your rights locally. And if you want to support an organization that protects our rights, you can also help supporting us by becoming a customer of Patriot Mobile. They're the only Christian conservative wireless carrier in the country. They have great 4G and 5G coverage. They have great customer support, all based here in the United States. I used them for years before I became an affiliate with them. Go to patriotmobile.com/constitution, find a plan that works for you, and use the code Constitution when you check out to get free activation. Once again, that's patriotmobile.com/constitution to find a great plan and use that code Constitution at checkout so that they know that you listen to the Constitution Study and you'll get free activation. All of this helps support the work that we're doing. And hopefully, you'll also support us by sharing this episode, by sharing the articles, by sharing all this information, and by coming back next time for the Constitution Study.